Still drowning in your problems? Do emotions overwhelm you, people drain you, and daily life consume you? The answer is simple. You don't think like a Stoic. Period. As long as you don't train your mind, you'll keep falling into the same traps. It's not that life is too hard, it's that you're not strong enough yet. And the worst part is, you know it. How much longer are you going to ignore it? Life won't stop testing you, but you can stop failing the test. In this video, I'm going to share the 12 most powerful lessons from Stoicism, so that, once and for all, you stop being a slave to your emotions and start living with clarity, strength, and control. These teachings aren't cheap inspiration. They're practical tools used by the Stoic sages to endure wars, exiles, tragedies, and still keep their calm. Today you'll understand that real power doesn't lie in changing the world, but in changing the way you face it. If you're ready to leave your old self behind, stay, because this isn't personal development, it's mental survival. 1. Stop being a slave to your mind. My friend, think about this. Your mind is like a radio host who never turns off the mic. Some days it plays your favorite song, but on others, it floods you with noise, comments you never asked for that. Without realizing it, you start to believe. Most people try to shut that voice up by force or run away from it, but a Stoic learns to handle the dial. They know when to turn up the volume on what makes them stronger and when to silence the noise that weakens them. Picture this. You leave the house feeling confident, even proud of how you look today. The day begins well, steady steps, head held high. Then you walk past a store window, and from that cursed angle, your clothes don't look the way you thought. A second ago, you felt great. A second later, you're doubting yourself. No analysis, no context, just a quick sentence. I look awful. And just like that, the movie begins. Every reflection becomes an inspection. Every stranger's glance feels like judgment. You're no longer on the street. You're trapped inside your head. The strange thing is, nothing outside has changed. The lighting, your clothes, the people, they're all the same. The only thing that changed was the script your mind started writing without your permission. And instead of editing it, you read it as if it were the truth. By the time you get where you're going, your energy's not the same. You went from confident to insecure, all because of a story you never stopped to fact-check. In that moment, you're not in charge of your mind. Your mind is in charge of you. If something as small as a reflection can shake you, how are you going to handle real storms? This is where a Stoic sets themselves apart. They train their mind like their life depends on it, because it does. Let me tell you a story to help you understand. You've probably heard this name, Viktor Frankl. He lived it firsthand. In a concentration camp with no power to change anything around him, he found a sliver of freedom in the most unexpected place, the way he chose to interpret each day. He decided not to let his mind become a battlefield against himself. That choice kept him alive and clear-headed in the worst imaginable circumstances. He couldn't control the world, but he could control how he saw it. That brings us to a principle Epictetus made crystal clear. No man is free if he is not master of himself. He wasn't talking about suppressing emotions, but about recognizing which thoughts give your life strength and which ones poison it. Because if you don't make that distinction, you end up living under the rule of ideas that were never even yours. Here's a trick you can start using today. Andrew Huberman, a neuroscientist, explains that you can observe your thoughts as if they were mental objects. Just like you'd look at a cloud and say, "That's a cloud." You can look at a thought and label it. This is worry. This is fear. Doing that reduces activity in the amygdala, the brain's emotional alarm system, and helps lower anxiety. It's like taking a step back to remind yourself, a thought isn't a command, it's just a thought. Let's put it into practice. First, take a few minutes each day to identify the types of thoughts that come up most often. Write them down with no filter, no sugarcoating. Then question them. Ask yourself if what you're thinking is a proven fact or just your interpretation. Finally, swap them for a more useful version. If your mind says, I'm going to fail. Reframe it as, I'm going to learn something new. It's not lying to yourself. It's choosing a script that helps you instead of one that sabotages you. We're not talking about eliminating all negative thoughts. That's not possible. We're talking about not letting a single one grab the wheel and steer you somewhere you don't want to go. The difference between being a slave or master of your mind lies in realizing that you can always choose which story to believe. And the more you train that choice, the stronger you become in facing anything, whether the sun is shining or a storm's rolling in. Because that's what we're after here, for you to live with the discipline and mental clarity of a Stoic, strong enough to overcome most of your struggles no matter what's happening outside, so that your day isn't defined by a reflection in a window, a comment from someone else, or an unexpected event, but by your decision to stay in control. Your mind isn't your enemy, but if you don't train it, it can become your worst jailer. And on this path of forcing yourself to live like a Stoic, your real freedom begins in that tiny space between thought and response. Train it daily, because that's where you stop being a slave and start being the master of your life. Before we go on, tell me something. How many times in the past week have you felt like you're not in control of anything? Like your mind is going one way and your life is going another? If that feeling sounds all too familiar, subscribe and become an exclusive member to learn how to take back control of your mind. And let me know in the comments. In what kind of situation does your mind tend to drag you around the most? Or just write, Stoic at heart. Today I stop being a slave to my thoughts and start living with calm. 2. Don't react to the first hit. Something interesting happened to me recently on the subway. A guy was standing there, pretty serious looking, when someone accidentally bumped into him. It was a rough movement, sure, but nothing serious. In a split second, the guy spun around, tensed up, and started yelling like he'd been attacked. Everyone turned to look, uncomfortable. And then we saw the full picture. The person who bumped into him was on crutches. They'd simply lost their balance. There was no bad intent, no offense. But it was too late. The guy had already exploded, making a whole angry scene. And the worst part? He didn't even apologize once he realized the truth. He just stood there the whole ride, muttering insults like he was still convinced he was right. That moment hit me hard. Not reacting is far more powerful than reacting without thinking, because in that instant, he wasn't in control of himself. He was a slave to that first spark of anger. What could have been a brief, awkward moment turned into a whole ride filled with tension, for him and for everyone around him. I bet that guy had never read Marcus Aurelius. This emperor who dealt with real enemies, palace intrigue, war, and betrayal, still managed not to lash out at the first hit. That's why he said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Brilliant, isn't it? While most people think strength is hitting back, the Stoic knows real strength is in choosing not to play that game. The real battle is internal. Is it worth losing my peace over this? And if the answer is no, then silence, or a pause, is the best victory. But you don't need to be in a war zone or ruling an empire to snap like that. It happens right at home. Picture this. Your partner casually asks, "Are you going to be much longer?" Sounds innocent, right? But your tired, defensive mind takes it as criticism. And before you even think, you fire back. "You're always rushing me." A poisoned dart, launched without a second thought. Minutes later, when you find out they just wanted to plan dinner with you, the damage is done. A reaction that could have been avoided with just a couple seconds of pause. Reacting to the first hit is like playing a video game and smashing every button the moment an enemy shows up. You burn out, lose precision, and end up defeated by your own chaos. What would someone with Stoic mental discipline do? They wouldn't mash the buttons. They'd wait, observe, and respond with clarity. My friend, this is the perfect time to learn how to respond with the calm of a Stoic. And believe me when I say, 95% of your problems will disappear like magic. Wondering how? There are some simple tricks to train this. And I'm not talking about abstract philosophy. I mean tools you can actually use in your daily life. For example, try mentally counting to 5 before you respond when something bothers you. Those 5 seconds are a lifesaver. They give your brain time to see the whole picture, not just that first spark. Another useful habit? Shift your focus. If someone does something that irritates you, instead of obsessing over the action, consider the context. Ask yourself, did this person really mean to offend me, or are they just having a rough day? That question instantly changes the story you're telling yourself and lowers the tension right away. And here's one more trick that sounds silly but really works. Smile, or take a deep breath if the situation allows. Not to be polite, but because your body takes that gesture as a signal. No threat. We're fine. It's amazing how something so small can shut down the whole chain of automatic reactions. Know what happens when you start using these pauses? Your whole life shifts. You realize that most arguments, anger, and misunderstandings that drain your energy were never real. They were just rushed responses. And little by little, you start living with the discipline of a Stoic. Strong, clear, and not dependent on what's going on outside. Because when you're in control of yourself during those critical few seconds, the rest of life becomes a lot easier to handle. 3. Let go of the battle you've already lost. Picture yourself pushing a door with all your strength. You lean in, sweat dripping, muscles shaking, but the door doesn't budge an inch. You get frustrated, thinking maybe you just need to push harder. So you try again, angrier this time. Still nothing. Until someone walks by and calmly says, "Hey, that door opens the other way." And suddenly, everything makes sense. It was never about force. It was about direction. That's the trap of fighting battles that are already lost. Wasting the best of you on a fight you'll never win. Think about it. How many times have you found yourself stuck pushing doors that won't open anymore? A job you lost that you still dwell on months later. A broken relationship you keep going back to, waiting for signs that never come. That mistake from the past you replay in your head, like you could undo it by regretting it harder. All of these battles have something in common. No matter how much energy you pour into them, the outcome is already set. Thomas Edison lived this firsthand. One December night, a fire completely destroyed his factory. In just a few hours, years of inventions, machines, and dreams were reduced to ash. Imagine being in his shoes, watching flames consume everything you built. Most people would have broken down. But Edison, instead of collapsing, let go of that battle right then and there. He summed it up in a line that feels like a slap of reality. Now, we can start over. He didn't cling to the smoke of the past. He looked forward to what he could still build. That choice, that ability to let go, is what allowed him to get back up and keep creating. See it now? That's the line between being stuck and being free. And my friend, that freedom is a lot closer than you think. Because training your mind like a Stoic means just that. Living with clarity, not wasting your strength on impossible battles, saving your energy for what can be moved. Epictetus made it brutally clear. Do not seek for events to happen as you wish, but wish for them to happen as they do, and your life will go smoothly. Harsh, I know. We love to think we can bend reality to our will. But when you fight the inevitable, the only thing you lose is your peace. Acceptance isn't giving up. It's the smartest move you can make. It lets you hold on to your strength for what really matters. And you don't have to go as far back as Edison or Epictetus to see it. Think of something more every day. You break up with someone, and instead of focusing on yourself, you spend sleepless nights checking their social media. You look for clues, analyze who liked their posts, read into their silence. What does that get you? Nothing, except deeper wounds. Every minute spent there is like pouring gasoline on a fire that already burned out. It doesn't help you heal, it slows you down. Clinging to what you can't change is like dropping an anchor in the middle of a storm. You think it'll keep you safe, but really it just drags you down faster. True courage isn't about holding on no matter what. It's about letting go so you can move toward calmer waters. So, how do you do that practically? Let me spell it out. First, identify the situation that still takes up space in your mind even though it has no solution. Write it down. Name it. Maybe you're still going over an argument you had with a friend months ago, replaying everything you should have said. Or maybe you're still angry at your ex-boss even though you don't work there anymore. Or you might still be blaming yourself for missing a chance that, realistically, isn't coming back. Second, make a conscious decision. What are you going to stop doing starting today? Maybe it's checking that profile. Maybe it's repeating dead-end arguments in your head. Maybe it's chasing something that doesn't exist anymore. And third, replace that habit with something that brings you back to life. Learn a new skill, pick up a forgotten hobby, spend real time with friends, or take care of your body. Letting go isn't enough. You have to fill that space with something that pulls you forward. Because here's the key. When you let go of what's already lost, you stop forcing yourself to fight battles that only exist in your head. And in that moment, without even realizing it, you're getting rid of 95% of your problems. How? Simple. You're no longer wasting energy on closed doors, on people who won't change, on stories that only wear you down. When you live with Stoic clarity, you understand that your energy is too valuable to throw away on pointless fights. Every time you choose to let go, you're training your mind to endure whatever comes, to overcome the majority of your struggles without depending on what's happening outside. Now I want you to do something. Think about that lost battle you're still silently fighting. Write it in the comments, not to expose your wounds, but to start letting them go. This whole community is here to remind you that you don't carry that alone. And if you don't want to share details, just write, "Today I let go of that battle." Because that small act is already a step toward freedom. And that freedom, trust me, is the first step toward the life you truly deserve. 4. Use the hits to make yourself stronger. Picture an ordinary day. A teenage girl gets on a bus, school bag on her shoulder, shy smile on her face. Just another morning, until in a split second her life changes forever. A man with a gun walks up and shoots, trying to silence her voice. That girl was Malala Yousafzai, and all she had done was defend the right of girls to go to school. For anyone else, that kind of blow would have been enough to give up. She could have stayed hidden, afraid to ever speak up again. But no, she turned that bullet into a megaphone, into a cause that now inspires millions. Do you see how powerful a blow can be when you decide not to let it destroy you, but to let it transform you? That's the real lesson. Life will hit you. That part's not up to you. What is up to you is what you do with every blow. Do you crawl away, or do you stand back up, stronger than before? That's the difference between someone who barely survives and someone who grows with every hardship. During his campaign against the northern tribes, Marcus Aurelius spent long, cold nights filled with bad news, deserters, outbreaks of disease, betrayal back at the palace. He didn't have a cozy office or time to complain. He had a tent, a lamp, and his journal. In it, he reminded himself that a noble man should be like a rock that the waves crash against. The foam hits, roars, rises up. But the rock stands firm. He didn't write to impress anyone. He wrote to train himself. Every hit of the day became material to sharpen his character. And what an emperor did, a slave also practiced. Epictetus was born in chains. He endured humiliation, punishment, a leg permanently damaged. Anyone would have said, "It's over." But not him. He chose something else. He chose to turn each wound into discipline. That's why he kept repeating, "It's not events that crush us. It's the story we tell ourselves about them." His scars weren't excuses. They were reminders. If he couldn't change the outside world, he'd make the inner world unbreakable. Now think about something closer to home. Imagine you run a business and lose your most important client. That one client made up nearly half your revenue, and overnight, it's gone. The first hit is brutal. You wonder how you're going to recover. It feels like all your effort just vanished. But if you choose to see it differently, there's your chance to study what went wrong, diversify your income, and strengthen what's already working. Instead of staying stuck in regret, you can act like a Stoic. You can use that loss as a springboard to build a stronger version of your project. Of course, it doesn't happen overnight. This takes training. How? Let's say you just lost that big client. Your first instinct is to sit there in frustration, rehash how unfair it was, maybe blame the other side. Stop. Breathe. Write down exactly what happened. That's your first entry in your resilience manual. Were there signs they weren't fully satisfied? Did you let communication slip? Were you relying too much on just one contract? Writing it down forces you to see clearly instead of drowning in emotion. Next, step 2. Turn that lesson into a concrete action. If the issue was overdependence on one client, your next task is to diversify. If it was poor communication, define a new way to follow up with your clients. Every fall leaves behind a map, so you don't trip the same way next time. And the most important part, don't wait until you feel ready to apply what you've learned. Fear is always going to be there. If you wait for it to go away, you'll never take the next step. Start as soon as the lesson is clear. Even if your voice shakes, even if you're unsure. That's real training because no muscle grows without weight. My friend, I want you to see it this way. Every hardship is like a private class designed just for you. You don't choose the teacher or the schedule or the subject, but if you decide to show up for that class, you walk away with knowledge no one can take from you. And over time, that knowledge makes you invincible. Someone who doesn't need life to be easy in order to live in peace. Think about steel. It's not forged with soft touches or in a quiet room. It's forged with hits, hammer strikes, and intense heat. And it's exactly that process that gives it its strength, what makes it indestructible. The same goes for you. Every hit you take, if you choose it wisely, can become the fire that tempers you and makes you stronger than before. 5. Drop the backpack if you want to run faster. Imagine you're about to climb a mountain. You're motivated, full of energy, but you decide to carry a huge backpack just in case. You pack heavy memories, tools you'll probably never use, even gifts that don't really make sense for the journey. Halfway up, you're exhausted. Every step feels unbearable. Then, an elderly man passes you, light on his feet, carrying only a small canteen. You ask him how he's moving so fast, and he smiles and says, "Because I learned to carry only what really helps me." That scene is a brutal metaphor for life. So many of us are hauling around a backpack full of things we don't need. And the worst part is, we don't even realize it. It's not just physical stuff we accumulate, it's worries, commitments we didn't want to say yes to, thoughts that echo in our heads and drain us. And of course, there comes a point when the exhaustion isn't from what you're doing. It's from everything you're carrying without meaning to. It's like trying to run a marathon wearing hiking boots and a sack of bricks on your back. In today's world, more and more people are waking up to this. Joshua Fields Milburn and Ryan Nicodemus, creators of the Minimalists podcast, shared that when they downsized their belongings, they didn't just clear out their homes. They found mental clarity. Suddenly, they had less anxiety, more energy, and a kind of freedom they'd never felt before. Because every item you keep unnecessarily is like a debt. It demands space, attention, time. And the same goes for what you store in your mind. Even back then, Seneca made it clear, it's not the man who has too little who is poor, but the one who craves more. And here's the thing, it's not about material poverty. It's about a poverty of spirit, the kind that shows up when nothing ever feels like enough. The trap isn't in owning little, it's in needing too much to feel complete. Think about it. Every time you accumulate just to accumulate, you're not gaining freedom, you're losing it. The Stoic mindset went in the opposite direction. They weren't looking to fill up, they were trying to lighten the load. Because when you clear out what you don't need, you realize real strength isn't in everything you carry, it's in how little you truly need to move forward. That Stoic discipline is like training a muscle of clarity. Every time you choose to let go of something useless, you recover energy for what truly matters. And that's the difference between dragging your way through life or moving with lightness. Now, picture this. You go to the gym and decide to pack several bags of rice in your backpack, just in case you get hungry on the treadmill. Absurd, right? Not only does it not help, it drains you before you even begin. And yet we do the same in life. carrying worries, obligations, and clutter that only weigh us down, while swearing they're necessary. So how do you start emptying that backpack? This might feel hard at first, but trust me, it's worth it. Do a quick cleanup. Choose 5 things you don't use and donate or throw them out today. Not tomorrow. Today. That jacket you haven't worn in 3 winters? Donate it. Those shoes that always hurt your feet, let them go. Old cables you've kept just in case? Trash. That dusty mug taking up space in the kitchen? Give it away. Books you've read and know you won't open again? Let someone else enjoy them. Next, look at your commitments. Ask yourself, how many things am I doing just out of obligation, not because they truly feed me? Learn to say no, because every yes you give to something that doesn't matter is another weight in your pack. And finally, look inside your head. We all have thoughts that repeat and do us no good. Identify one and make a decision to stop feeding it. Writing it down and crossing it out is a great way to begin letting it go. Now, my friend, this isn't about turning into a hardcore minimalist or living in an empty room. It's about something deeper, learning to recognize what adds to your life and what takes away. Because when you live with discipline and mental clarity, when you begin to empty that backpack, you discover you can overcome the vast majority of your difficulties without needing anything outside to change. That lightness isn't a luxury, it's raw power. Think about the road ahead. It's not about getting there first or competing with anyone. It's about reaching your destination free. And for that, everything you let go of is like taking a stone out of your shoe. Every step gets easier, lighter. If you really want to force yourself to live like a Stoic, start lightening your load today. Make that small gesture to let go, even if it's something tiny. Because your life isn't defined by what you hold on to, but by what you're willing to leave behind. 6. Be grateful even when everything's falling apart. Tell me something. How much time do you spend complaining about what's missing in your life? Do you catch yourself thinking about what went wrong, what never arrived, or what you've lost? And now the tougher question. How much time do you spend being thankful for what you do have? Most people live like everything is guaranteed, like waking up each morning is just routine and not the miracle it really is. My friend, if you think about it, today you already have more than you once prayed for. The Stoics understood this deeply. In the midst of wars and loss, Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." And he didn't say this from comfort. He wrote it while holding together an empire that was crumbling around him. That phrase isn't just a pretty quote for social media. It's a reminder that gratitude is the anchor that keeps you steady when life starts falling apart. Think about it. If Marcus Aurelius were alive today, maybe his gratitude journal would read, "The Wi-Fi didn't drop during my meeting. The universe is smiling on me." And as silly as that sounds, it's real. Gratitude often doesn't come from big moments. It comes from the smallest things. Your coffee tasting just right, a stranger smiling at you on the street, or your home being quiet when you need peace. It's no coincidence that modern psychology has come to the same conclusion as the ancient Stoics. Robert Emmons, one of the most respected researchers on the subject, showed at the University of California that keeping a gratitude journal for just 10 weeks improves overall well-being, reduces physical symptoms of stress, and even boosts the immune system. What does that mean? That gratitude isn't a luxury. It's a habit that strengthens you, just like physical exercise. And if that sounds too abstract, let me tell you the story of John O'Leary. At just 9 years old, an accident left him with burns across his entire body. Doctors didn't think he'd make it through the night, but against all odds, he survived. Decades later, he became a public speaker and wrote the book, On Fire. His message? Gratitude was his fuel. Even on the days when the pain was unbearable, he gave thanks for one more breath, for a new sunrise, for every hand that helped care for him. That's not weakness. That's strength in its purest form. So, how can you make sure gratitude doesn't just stay a nice idea? Start your day by noticing one small thing you appreciate. It doesn't have to be profound. Maybe your coffee turned out just right, Maybe your kid laughed out loud this morning, or your body felt strong during a workout. And when something goes wrong, pause and try to find something to be thankful for, even within that moment. If you miss a train, be grateful for the chance to listen to music or read while you wait. And if your mind tells you, there's nothing good right now, try this. Imagine that tomorrow everything disappears. Your home, your health, your loved ones, your work. What would you miss the most? That is what you should be grateful for today. Being grateful doesn't mean denying pain or pretending everything's fine. It's training your mind to recognize that even when things seem to be falling apart, there's still something holding your life together. That's why Seneca advised giving thanks for what life had already given you, even if it seemed like little, because the person who can appreciate it never feels poor. And Epictetus, even as a slave, gave thanks for the one thing no one could take from him, his inner freedom. That's what it means to live like a Stoic, my friend. Because when you choose to be grateful in the middle of chaos, you don't just find calm, you find the clarity to overcome most of your difficulties no matter what's happening outside. So here's my invitation to you. Don't overthink it, just do it. Write one single thing in the comments that you're grateful for today, even if it's tiny, even if it seems irrelevant. Because that small daily act is what builds Stoic discipline over time. And if you truly want to force yourself to live like a Stoic, start here. Be grateful, even when everything's falling apart. 7. Do what's right, even if no one applauds. There's something sad you see every day, people who only do the right thing when someone's watching. Like they're wearing a costume they put on under the spotlight. They work hard to look good, but the second no one's paying attention, they forget about ethics, honesty, everything. And tell me, what's that really worth? Doing the right thing just to get a pat on the back is like clapping for yourself in an empty theater. It's hollow. And the worst part, my friend, is that living this way makes you a slave to other people's eyes. You don't act out of conviction. You act for approval. A Stoic doesn't play that game. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it's the right thing to do, do it. If it's the truth, say it. No conditions." He didn't say, "Do it if people notice," or "Say it if it gets applause." For him, what's right stands on its own. And that kind of inner discipline is what allows you to overcome most of your difficulties, because your compass isn't set by what's happening outside, it's set by you. Here's the thing. People who quietly act with integrity, without needing credit, are often the ones who build the strongest, most respected relationships, because consistency speaks for itself, even when no one claps. It might feel like you're not gaining anything at first, but in the long run, it leaves behind a legacy that no trophy can buy. And then there are the actions that change the world. In 1955, Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a segregated bus. There were no cameras, no reporters waiting. There was exhaustion, fear, and real consequences. And yet, that silent act sparked a fire that helped ignite the civil rights movement in the United States. The right thing, done without seeking recognition, can be more powerful than 1,000 empty speeches. Now picture this. A coworker is drowning in a project, the deadline's closing in, and if they don't finish, the whole team will take the hit. You could pack up, shut your laptop, and head home. No one would blame you. But instead, you stay an extra hour and help out. No one sees it. No one thanks you. Not even your coworker brings it up the next day. And still, you know what happens? That silent action makes you stronger, because you acted according to your values, not for praise. So, how can you live with that kind of integrity in your everyday life? First, define 2 or 3 core values that guide you. Don't overthink it. Maybe it's honesty, respect, loyalty. Write them down on a note in your phone or stick them to your desk. Let them be a reminder of who you want to be, especially when things get tough. Second, before every decision, ask yourself, does this align with my values? Even if no one else ever finds out? Would you badmouth someone just to fit in at the office? Would you lie on a report because you know no one's going to check? If the answer clashes with your values, stop. Yeah, it might feel uncomfortable. but it's that discomfort that trains your discipline. Third, stand your ground, even if it means discomfort or losing out on a quick win. Sometimes staying true to yourself means not laughing at a cruel joke, not accepting a favor with strings attached, or walking away from a shortcut. I know it's not easy. We live in a world that rewards what's visible, what's posted, what gets likes. But real value isn't in what you show. It's in what you do when no one's watching. That's the line between living like everyone else and living with the discipline and clarity of a Stoic. That's what keeps you standing tall, even when everything around you is falling apart. My friend, forcing yourself to live like a Stoic means choosing to do what's right, even when no one's watching, even when there's no applause, no reward. Because that kind of discipline, that kind of consistency, is what gives you clarity and strength to face any difficulty. When your actions are aligned with your values, you become stronger than your circumstances. And believe me, that strength is what will help you overcome the challenges that today seem like giants. 8. Stay silent and you'll gain power. You're at a birthday party with your lifelong friends. There's music, laughter, someone's handing out cake, and you're in the middle of telling a story about something that happened at work. Then that friend drops a comment. It's not a harmless joke, it's a disguised jab. Work? Do you even know what that is? You hear it, your face flushes, and your first instinct is to fire back. You throw out a sharp response, and what was a relaxed get-together turns tense. The conversation gets awkward. People avoid eye contact, and you walk away feeling like you lost control. Because yes, the comment was out of line. No one's denying that. But in the end, who walked away with their peace shattered? You. Who stayed up all night replaying it in your head thinking of what you should have said? Also you. That's the trap. When you react instantly and with anger, you don't fix anything. You just hand your power over to the other person. Right in that moment, you should remember something Seneca once said. It is the mark of a wise person to remain silent when it is not the time to speak. Picture Seneca on Twitter. Someone tweets at him, "Your letters are boring, just cheap sermons." What do you think he'd do? Fire off a 20-tweet rebuttal? Of course not. He'd probably close the app, pour himself a tea, and go back to writing to Lucilius. That silence is the win. Because winning doesn't always mean striking back. Sometimes winning means not even stepping into the ring. And no, silence isn't weakness. Silence is strategy. Staying quiet when your pride is screaming to speak is like walking away from a fight that's not worth it. It gives you perspective, keeps you out of pointless drama, and reminds you that your peace is worth more than winning a verbal exchange. A true Stoic understands this. Real power doesn't lie in the comeback. It lies in mastering the impulse. So how can you apply this in daily life? Let me give you 3 Stoic tools you can carry in your back pocket for whenever you need them. First, the graceful exit. Someone at work makes a sarcastic jab, or a stranger says something rude in public. You respond with a simple, "I'll keep that in mind, thanks," and move on. No blow-up, no bottling it up. You drop it right there and keep going. It's like Epictetus said, insults only hurt if you choose to accept them. You choose not to. And in doing so, you protect your energy. Second, the monosyllables. You're at a family gathering and that one relative keeps poking, looking for an argument. You could take the bait and ruin the whole dinner, or you could answer with a yeah, maybe, and let them run out of steam. Sounds silly, but it's a silent shield. Seneca would have loved it. Picture it, someone snaps at him and he just replies, There's no better way to disarm someone looking for a fight than refusing to fight. Third, the confusion move. Here's where humor becomes your weapon. Someone mocks you, and instead of clapping back, you say something completely absurd like, as my uncle used to say, "The early bird catches Tuesday." Total nonsense. They're thrown off, confused, and you walk away cool and unfazed. It's genius because it breaks their script. They expected your anger, not your creativity. All of these strategies have one thing in common. They put you back in control. The goal isn't to humiliate the other person. It's to protect your peace, to not give away your calm over a comment that, if you really think about it, doesn't deserve that much room in your head. Because in the end, my friend, this is what we've been building together. When you choose to live like a Stoic, you choose not to depend on what's happening outside. Not on words, not on mockery, not on applause. Only on your own discipline and mental clarity. That's where your real power lives. So, next time someone throws a jab or tries to get under your skin, remember, your silence might be louder than anything you could say. And now I ask you, what technique are you going to try next time someone pushes your buttons? Write it in the comments or simply say, "My silence is my power." 9. Do it anyway, whether you feel like it or not. I remember a time when I set a goal to wake up at 6 in the morning to study a course before heading to work. The alarm would go off and my first thought was, 5 more minutes. My body ached. My eyes could barely stay open and every part of me wanted to stay in bed. Most mornings I felt like giving up before even starting. But then I found a trick that changed everything. I made a promise to myself. No negotiations before 8 a.m. That meant no matter how many excuses my brain threw at me, I couldn't argue. I'd get up, half asleep, pull on my clothes, stretch a little, and sit down to study. Most of the time, I didn't enjoy it at first. But every time I finished, I was grateful I did it. That steady effort, even without motivation, opened doors I once thought were impossible. It's what allowed me to change jobs and move forward in ways I never imagined. That's when I realized, waiting to feel motivated is a trap. Motivation is like an unexpected visitor. Sometimes it shows up, but you never know when. If you rely on it, your life stays on pause. Meanwhile, time keeps slipping away. Epictetus said, "It's not enough to know what needs to be done, you have to do it." And he was right. Knowing the theory changes nothing. It's action, repeated day after day, that shapes your character. Marcus Aurelius wrote something in Meditations that almost hurts to read. He admitted that many mornings, he didn't want to get up either. He'd rather stay under the covers. And what did he do? He reminded himself that he was born to work like a human being, not to live like a creature that just sleeps. Think about that. The most powerful emperor in the world, with everything at his fingertips, struggling with the same laziness you feel when your alarm goes off. If he pushed himself to act, how could we not? These days, everyone's talking about habits. And James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, explains it perfectly. Consistency isn't built with massive, epic effort. It's built through small actions, repeated, even when you don't feel like it. It's like a muscle. If you only train when you're in the mood, it never grows. But if you train even when you don't feel like it, you get stronger, often without even noticing. Think about it in your everyday life. You come home exhausted after a long day. Dinner's waiting. The easiest thing is to grab your phone and order fast food. But instead, you walk into the kitchen, chop some vegetables, and cook something simple. It's not what you wanted to do, but you eat better and sleep better. Another example. You plan to go running, but it's raining. Your mind says, "Not today, tomorrow." But you lace up and go anyway, even if it's just 10 minutes. When you get back, you realize the weather wasn't the issue. It was your inner negotiation. Or that classic moment. You're already in pajamas and the trash is full. Your mind whispers, "I'll take it out tomorrow." But you go down now and do it. Those small wins matter far more than they seem. So how do you apply this practically? First, choose one key habit you want to stick with. Just one, not 10. Maybe it's reading daily, working out, meditating, or writing. Commit to never skipping it more than one day in a row. Draw that line and stick to it. If you miss today, tomorrow it happens no matter what. Second, set a physical reminder. Lay out your gym clothes the night before, put your book on the table, open your notebook with the pen beside it. Make it impossible to ignore. That way, when laziness shows up, your environment pushes you to act. And yes, I know, starting is the hardest part. So lower the entry barrier. Don't want to run for 30 minutes? Run for 5. Don't want to read 20 pages? Read 2. Don't want to meditate for 10 minutes? Try 1. The point isn't how much, it's keeping the habit alive. Because once you start, you almost always go further than you planned. One more thing. Stop asking yourself if you feel like doing it. Just do it. In most cases, motivation shows up after you begin, not before. It's like lighting a fire, the spark comes first, the warmth comes later. My friend, here's the truth. Greatness isn't measured by the days you were motivated. It's measured by the days you were tired, lazy, or uninspired, and did it anyway. That's what makes you unstoppable. So the next time your mind says, "I don't feel like it today," respond with, "Perfect. I didn't ask." Do it anyway. Do it tired. Do it in the rain. Do it with doubt. Do it with energy or without it. Because in this journey of forcing yourself to live like a Stoic, every action you take that doesn't depend on what's happening outside brings you one step closer to overcoming whatever life throws your way. And if there's still a part of you that keeps looking for the easy excuse that pulls you back just when you want to push forward, then don't miss the next video on screen. That's where you'll learn how to kill off that weaker version of yourself and make space for the stronger one, the one that's ready to transform your life completely. 10. Let go of pointless battles. Let me ask you something, and be honest, how many times have you lost your peace over a ridiculous comment? How many arguments have you gotten into just for the pride of proving you were right? And here's the hard part. How many of those fights do you still remember with anger, even though they left you with nothing but exhaustion? My friend, it's simple. Most of the time, we end up fighting wars we should have never started. Picture this. You're in a WhatsApp group with coworkers. Everything's fine until someone writes, "People who work from home do half the work. They're just lazy freeloaders." You read that, and your blood boils, because you've been working remotely for months and you know how much effort it takes. So without thinking it through, you reply, "That's not true. Studies show productivity is actually higher. I get more done from home than many do in the office." You think that settles it. But no, that's just the beginning of the war. He replies within a minute. "Yeah, right," says someone who just doesn't want to get up early or deal with a boss. And now you can't stop. You start sending links to studies, news articles, statistics. Each message is longer, more detailed, more intense. You feel the need to prove you're not lazy, that your work matters. And instead of backing off, he keeps poking. Stop justifying yourself. Remote work is for the comfortable. 20 minutes go by. You haven't eaten dinner. You're glued to your phone, heart racing, sending messages like you're defending your honor in court. Part of you knows you won't convince him, but another part insists that if you let him have the last word, you've lost. And what do you get? By midnight, the group is full of messages. You're exhausted, your head pounding, and your coworker closes the whole thing with, "Well, everyone makes up whatever suits them." You close the chat, but you can't sleep. You're still replaying everything you should have said. Now breathe and ask yourself, what would have happened if, instead of taking the bait, you'd read that comment and set your phone down to enjoy your dinner? You'd have eaten in peace, slept better, and woken up with the energy to focus on what really matters. That, unbelievable as it may seem, would have been a much greater victory than winning the argument. Psychology backs this up. Researchers at Stanford published a study called Selective Conflict Regulation, which showed that people who learn to choose which arguments to engage in and which to let go of experience less chronic stress and build healthier relationships over time. So it's not about avoiding conflict entirely, it's about filtering it. Ask yourself, is this really worth spending my peace on? How can you apply this in your daily life with modern Stoic strategies? First, shift your intention from winning to softening. If someone tries to drag you into a useless debate, say something like, "I agree it's a topic worth discussing," and leave it at that. You disarm them without stepping into the ring. Second, use phrases that acknowledge the other person without joining their battle. For example, "I understand this matters to you." You're not backing down, you're closing the door without slamming it. Third, The absurd exit. When someone tries to provoke you, respond with something so off the wall it breaks the rhythm. Humor disarms people faster than logic. And fourth, the most powerful one, walk away with dignity. Say, in the end, it's my choice, and move on. Not because you're avoiding the issue, but because you're choosing not to hand over your peace to a fight that doesn't deserve it. Marcus Aurelius said it clearly in his Meditations. Do not waste what's left of your life arguing about what others do or say. And he didn't write that from the comfort of a peaceful home. He was an emperor surrounded by scheming senators, problems from soldiers, and enemies looking to provoke him. He could have answered them all, but he knew that would drain him, so he chose to save his energy for what mattered: governing, reflecting, and tending to his soul. That's the kind of discipline that defines a Stoic. So tell me, what's the point of spending your entire day trying to convince your brother-in-law about politics, replying to your boss's sarcastic comment, or debating a stranger on the internet there isn't one? Every time you enter those battles, you're giving away your serenity. And the irony is, even when you win, you lose. Because you didn't choose the fight, they did. What truly changes everything is learning to keep your energy for what matters. That's the discipline and mental clarity you deserve. Because when you choose which battles to fight and which ones to let go, your whole life shifts. You move lighter. You stop wasting ammo on fireworks that light up nothing. Next time you feel the urge to jump into a pointless argument, pause and ask yourself, is this worth losing my peace over? That simple question is already an act of discipline. Because living like a Stoic isn't about winning every debate. It's about saving your strength for what truly matters. And when you do that, you'll see that 95% of your problems simply disappear, without you having to fight every single one. If today you realize that peace is more valuable than being right, write it in the comments with the phrase, I choose my calm above all. That's how our community keeps growing stronger each day. 11. Remember, everything has an expiration date. Picture an hourglass. From the moment you flip it, the sand starts to fall, and there's no way to stop it. You can cover it with your hand, shake it, even pretend you don't see it. It doesn't matter. Time keeps running, and every grain that drops is a moment of your life that won't come back. It's harsh, but it's true. We struggle to accept it because we'd rather believe there's always more time. Time to make amends, to start that project, to say what we feel. But the hourglass doesn't make deals with anyone. Have you ever walked past a place from your childhood and been shocked to see it's gone? A shop closed down, a park under construction, maybe even someone who's no longer around. That gut punch of reality reminds us, nothing stays the same. And as scary as that may be, it's also an opportunity. Because once you truly understand that everything comes to an end, you stop taking what's in front of you for granted. Marcus Aurelius understood this in his daily life. He didn't see death as a punishment, but as a silent teacher, reminding him that every day was a gift. He wrote, "Don't act as if you're going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. As long as you're alive, as long as it's possible, be good." And that's the key. It's not about living in fear, it's about living with urgency. Not rushing, but living with purpose. More recently, Oliver Burkeman put it another way in his book 4,000 Weeks. Our lifespan, when measured in weeks, is short. But realizing this isn't depressing, it's freeing. Because it forces you to prioritize, to stop wasting time on empty arguments or meaningless tasks, and focus instead on what truly matters. That clarity is what turns an ordinary life into a conscious one. Maybe you'll get it even better with a simple example. You've been meaning to call a friend you haven't spoken to in years. You keep saying, "I'll do it next week." Then one day, you pass by the cafe where you used to meet, and it's closed. You stand there, staring at a for sale sign, realizing that time passed, and you didn't move. You didn't just lose a place. You lost moments that won't come back. That's why, if you truly want to live with the discipline and clarity of a Stoic, you can't keep acting like life is endless. My friend, this reminder isn't here to make you feel sad. It's here to wake you up, to help you realize that every morning you open your eyes is a loan you don't know how long you'll keep. And with that in mind, are you really going to keep spending your days on things that lead nowhere? Here's something simple you can do. Print out a blank calendar, one that shows the full month. Look at it seriously, like it's a map of your life. At the top, write down 3 things you've been putting off for far too long. They don't need to be big dreams. Maybe it's calling someone you miss, writing a few pages, or going for a walk somewhere new. Write them down, no excuses. Then grab a pen and choose the exact day you'll do each of them. Don't write someday. Write it clearly. Tuesday the 15th, Thursday the 22nd. Putting it on paper turns a wish into a commitment. Now look at that same calendar and cross out at least one block of time you know you're wasting. That hour of scrolling when you get home. That Sunday afternoon where you do nothing, but don't even rest. Cross it out and replace it with something that adds value. You'll be surprised what happens. When you see it on paper, life stops feeling like a rough draft and starts becoming a conscious choice. And believe me, that's Stoic discipline. Not letting your days slip away like sand, but deciding how to use every grain before it falls. And if you've made it this far, listen closely, because what comes next is even more important. You're about to learn the final key, the ultimate technique that can push you to live like a Stoic even in your toughest moments. And trust me, you won't want to miss it, because it might be the difference between staying stuck and finally taking real control of your life. 12. Dare to see yourself as you really are. Let me ask you, do you really know yourself, or do you just think you do? How many times do you go through life on autopilot without ever stopping to observe who you actually are? It's easy to fool yourself. You tell yourself you're patient, but you lose your temper in traffic. You claim to be disciplined, but then you push off the task you swore you'd finish yesterday. And of course, no one wants to face their contradictions head-on, because it's scary to realize you're not as strong as you thought. Do you know the YouTuber Matt D'Avella? From the outside, it looks like he's got everything figured out. Filmmaker, content creator, millions of followers. But he said that putting himself in front of the camera each week forced him to face something he didn't like, his insecurities. He noticed something uncomfortable, seeing his own gestures, his awkward pauses, his nervous tics. It was like looking into a mirror that doesn't lie. Most people would have closed the laptop and avoided watching those recordings again. He didn't. He made himself keep watching, and that honesty helped him refine his style, improve his communication, and even his daily life. Because what you can't see, you can't change. And that's the key. Facing yourself is uncomfortable, but it's the price of growth. You've probably had a similar experience. You hear a recording of your voice and realize you interrupt others way more than you thought. You'd never noticed it, because in your head it didn't seem that bad. But when you hear it, it's obvious. And from there, you've got 2 choices. Ignore it and keep being the person who cuts people off, or accept it with humility and start working on it. The second option is harder, but it's the one that gets you closer to your best self. The Stoics practiced this very thing, even without cameras or microphones. Epictetus emphasized constant self-evaluation. He said, "It's impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." Meaning, if you assume you've already figured everything out, you'll never discover where you fall short. That humility, to look inward, is what opens the door to change. That's why the Stoics ended each day with a mental review of their actions. Not to beat themselves up, but to learn. Where was I fair? Where did I let anger take over? What can I improve tomorrow? It was a habit, a discipline. Seneca did the same. He examined himself like his own judge, but not to punish himself, to grow. He said no one can correct themselves without first examining themselves. And he was right. How are you supposed to improve your patience if you won't admit you're impatient? How can you build discipline if you won't admit you've been putting off the important stuff for weeks? So, how can you start doing this in a practical way? At the end of the day, take a few minutes to mentally review how you acted in the situations that really mattered. You don't need to write it in a journal if you don't want to. Just think about it. Ask yourself, what did I do well? Where did I fall short? What would I do differently tomorrow? That simple check-in is like looking into an invisible mirror. When you do this, don't fall into self-blame. Be curious, not critical. Instead of saying, I'm a disaster, I always mess this up, shift the question to, what can I learn from this? That small change in approach turns guilt into growth. And here's something even more powerful. Share with someone you trust one area where you want to improve. Tell them, for example, I've realized I struggle to listen without interrupting. Help me spot it. When someone else knows what you're working on, the shared responsibility speeds up your transformation, because now it's not just about you. Someone else is reminding you of who you want to become. My friend, living with Stoic discipline doesn't mean pretending you're perfect. It means having the courage to face your flaws and shadows without dressing them up, so you can shape yourself into the person you want to be. That raw honesty is what gives you the power to overcome most of your struggles. Because the hardest enemy isn't out there, it's within. And once you learn to observe yourself honestly, you stop depending on the outside world to grow. So go ahead. Dare to see yourself exactly as you are. Real change starts the moment you stop hiding from yourself. Forcing yourself to live like a Stoic doesn't mean suppressing who you are. It means training your mind so it doesn't depend on what's happening outside. That discipline, that clarity, is what helps you overcome almost every difficulty and rise with calm, even in the middle of chaos. Because when you choose to live this way, you're no longer a victim of circumstances. You become the owner of your life. If you've made it this far, write in the comments, I choose to live like a Stoic. That way, I'll know who the true Stoic warriors are, the ones who made it all the way to the end. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button so you don't miss what's coming next. Also, check the description box. We've left some resources there to help you dive deeper into Stoic teachings. Our goal is to bring you as much value as possible. And if at any point you feel like supporting us so we can keep creating this kind of content, you'll find how to do that in the pinned comment. Now, I invite you to explore the playlist on screen. It's designed to help you face life with greater wisdom and confidence. Click it, and let's keep growing together. Until the next talk, take care and keep embracing your inner Stoic.